This one is long overdue because, I mean, you've been my best friend for like 10 years now. Isn't that wild to think about now? I mean,
Right.
you have more videos with me than anyone in the Discord by a long shot. So
Which is very interesting because honestly, you've said a lot that you put out a lot of different videos, but I never realized how much it was until I was actually going through your channel the other day when we were doing the scare ritual or
right.
a scare ritual. So,
Yeah,
yeah, loads of videos.
you've been in like at least a third of my videos, Jason.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of wild to think about, but we're gonna take a little trip down memory lane. This is like a my mom is actually both my parents are looking at houses in Virginia, so that's why she couldn't be here this weekend, and I was like, I wanna, Mom, I'm sick of you. I said, Mom,
Mhm.
so it's about time you and I do this one. And I don't know if you remember because the stories are so because there's just so many of us over the years. We've just grown the Discord. I don't exactly remember the story of how you and I met. I always say it was Siege, but it was actually CS:GO with Will. I think you gotta give me the story because I don't remember it
Um,
anymore.
so I could be misremembering, but way back in the day, 2016, right when the game released,
Yeah.
I somehow met Will in a online match, and for whatever reason, I don't remember why, we became friends. And in a Rainbow Six Siege custom match, he introduced me to both you and Henry as well. And so that's how we originally met through a custom game, which is funny because you never really liked
I
custom
hate
games.
custom games. I hate
Yeah,
one on
so
ones. I hate all that stuff. Matt Sprague's always like he's
mhm,
always looking for 1v1s. I'm never interested. So
right.
yeah. And now we're playing more finals. My brother just texted me. That's why I looked down. He's like, "Oh, finals."
Yeah, I'm
So
getting messages on Discord, not from Michael or anything, but
yeah,
yeah.
we become very
So
busy. But
fight games over there.
I want to take it back even further. I want to know what got you into video games. Like, how do we?
Well, how did I get into video games? That is very interesting because I'm not entirely sure either. If you go way, way back, like I had many different game consoles. My father had one of the Ataris, I'm not sure which one, and so I took an interest with that Atari. And so that was way back in the day where you needed to be on like channel 3 or something like that to be able to
Yeah,
play it.
the components, right?
Yeah,
Component
and
cores.
you had the cartridges that you had to slot in. It was really cool. I don't know the actual model of Atari. There's a bunch of different ones. Let me see if I could do a quick Google search and see if I can find one.
I
Atari
don't know if I told this story.
console.
My I totally forgot about this till you mentioned the Atari. My dad had, and my dad's very anti video games. I've talked about it many times on the podcast. My dad had an Intellivision that we would play. Have you ever seen an Intellivision? Yeah,
Um,
I don't even remember what it looked
I don't
like.
think so.
Yeah, it had like baseball and like some Indian. It was like by today's standard, it was probably considered a racist game, but it was like an Indian game where you would just shoot things with bows and arrows. Like looking back on, it, I'm like, man, that might have been kind of racist, but I think it was like a Dungeons
Mhm.
and Dragons, surprisingly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I took a quick look, and it looks similar to the Atari 26,000
2600, yeah.
or 2600. Yeah, 2600. There we go.
I
Jeez,
don't
my
know the
memory's
Atari consoles
horrible.
very well.
I don't either. I just know what I had, and that was that. So, I had that Atari, and so I played that a little bit. Then I had various different Game Boys and stuff like that. For whatever reason, I just always gravitated towards video games. Um, and so I don't entirely know how to tell you how I got my start in video gaming. For as long as I could remember, I've been playing video games just on various different consoles.
When was the one where you were like, because I played a lot of games growing up. As I told you, the Intellivision. My uncle had a Sega Dreamcast, which I would play like Pocahontas on and stuff. And then I got Hercules. My mom makes a joke on the podcast about she still remembers the song because I would play it all the time. But the game that
Mhm.
really got me into gaming, where I was like, this is going to be a huge part of my life, was Star Fox Adventures. Because I remember when I got my GameCube, that was the first game I played. I couldn't even beat the first level, but I loved it so much because I was like, oh, this is what video games can become. So, and now you look at
Mhm.
games nowadays, they're so realistic, you can't even sometimes discern between reality and,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
So that was the game that got me into it. Do you remember what game that was for you?
Um, I know each game for each generation of console, but I don't know the definitive one.
Gotcha.
And so back when I was playing on the Game Boy, it was Super Mario 3,
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. 3 or Mario Bros. 3. I forgot the naming convention, but I played that a bunch on the Game Boy. And then for the DS, I played a lot of Mario Kart on the DS. Um, I think most notably, the thing that got me most into gaming, I think I was around 8 or 9 in 2008 or 2009. I don't remember the exact time. Gears of War 2 came out. And I was at my cousin's house, and he was playing Gears of War 2 multiplayer. And so I walked into his room, and he was playing on I forgot the name of the map, but it's the one that has the hail going down on it, and so it had like a weather event where you had to get inside, otherwise you'd get killed by the hail. And so I was watching him play that, and I saw him chainsaw this dude in half, and I'm like, wow, at a young age, I should not be looking at this. But I figured that, yeah, I like that, and so I've been
That
watching
was it.
that
That was a guy
ever
hook.
since.
My,
Yeah, so I've been watching them, and I've been begging for an Xbox ever since. And the first game that I got on Xbox 360 was Gears of War because of,
wow.
well, that being the reason that I wanted to get it in the first place.
Were your parents
So.
ever strict with like the kind of games that you got? So like for me, I told this to I think Sprague recently. I told him I wasn't allowed rated M games. So even though I got a GameCube at like second grade, I wasn't allowed to play even rated T games until I was a teenager. And I still remember the
Mm.
day when my dad he literally was like, he took me to his room and he's like, I got you a little something. And he's like, this is a big deal. I want you to be mature about this. I was like, what did you do? And he pulls out Medal of Honor. Oh, damn it. I forget which one. I can picture the cover, but it was one of the Medal of Honors. And it was rated T. I was like, Dad, Daddy. You know, it's like, thank you. So that's when I started learning. That's when I kind of graduated from like Mario and Super Smash Bros. To like more adult games, shooters. So that was, I want to say that was like eighth grade. And by this point,
Right.
everyone was on Xbox. So I'm still playing a GameCube. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's what got me into the shooters that I play nowadays. But as I got older and less, well, we'll talk about Siege a little more in a little bit. But as I got older, um, I kind of started to appreciate the stories more because I don't really care. I like getting a rank, but I don't need to win every game. It's fun and I have that competitive nature, I guess, but I'm not trying to go pro again. Right? Pro
Right.
and
Okay.
seed. I'm not shooting for that. So that's why I've become more interested in the story games like God of War. I mean, you and I, between the two of us, we probably play 1,000 times more games than everyone else in that Discord because you and I love indie games sometimes. I know you
Mhm.
like the deck builders, so
Yeah.
I've I've I have more of an appreciation for the indie games now than I did during the Siege days. And it always bothers me when Sprague, I hope he sees this. It always bothers me when Sprague is like, man, there's nothing to play. I'm like, dude, there's like 50 games that came out this year that are so good. Just go play them. But you know, he won't do
Mhm.
it. So
Right.
yeah. So tell me about like school. Like, do you want to go through outside of gaming? Like, what was life like growing up?
Oh boy. So what was life like growing up? I went to school. Growing up, I was not good at school
Me
whatsoever.
neither.
I would get very bad grades. I would always get in trouble.
What kind
Um,
of trouble we talking? Like you beating kids up in the cafeteria? Or
no, mostly it was lashing out
Mm.
and stuff like that. I was known for having anger issues, really bad anger issues, where I would yell at people and my sister, and I remember physically hitting my sister one time, and so I'm not proud of that.
What is it that would like put you over on anger? Like, what is it? Is it like little things that looking back you're like, oh, that's stupid, or is it something that like it was probably justified, but you went way overboard?
That I don't remember. I'm not entirely sure. There's certain instances where it's basically, I remember a lot of bad memories, and hardly any of the good memories. So most of the bad memories I have is stuff that I would consider kind of dumb. Like way back in the day when my grandmother was still around, she would want to take me to the toy store and stuff like that, right? But I couldn't get what I wanted at the toy store, and so I would end up saying, "Oh, I don't love you," or stuff like
Oh,
that,
damn.
lashing out like that. And then other things as well. I just wasn't a good person. I'm not entirely sure what would set me off.
So it was probably
Um,
little things that you just, looking back now that you're mature, you kind of go, oh, it wasn't worth it, or that was kind of a different person. You kind of see it differently.
I possibly, I would probably go that route. Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember. I remember being angry. I don't remember why I got angry over it. And
It's
so it's really hard to put it to why that is.
I'm kind of like you in the sense of I get angry over it takes a lot to get me angry. There's only been one time. Well, there's been probably like two times in my life where I was so angry to the point where I don't even remember what happened, and that was once with my brother. And without going into too much detail, I don't even remember it. Like people have to tell me what happened because I was so angry. So I can kind of understand that mentality. I don't know if my way is kind of like, I don't want to say normal, but like I wonder if people who get that angry would feel the same way. But it sounds like you were doing it more, like it was more often, right? And it didn't take much.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, I
Yeah,
see
it
what
was
you're
more
saying.
often stuff like that. It also didn't help that I was just kind of a little shit where I thrive on pushing people's buttons. My sister, I would always like poke her and stuff like that, and she would get mad about it, and I would always just escalate it to be too far to where then we would end up getting into a fight, stuff like that.
What's the age difference between you and your sister? 2 years?
I don't entirely know when she was born, so I'm not entirely sure.
What's her birthday?
She was born February 13, but I don't know what the year is.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
so
when she graduate, were you a freshman when she was a senior? Or?
she went for 5 years in college. She graduated a year before me. I graduated in 22, so
So,
she started college in 2016.
oh yeah, because I was 14, so she's 2 years younger than me. That would make sense. So
Yeah,
she's probably 26. How old are you? You're 23,
24.
24. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right. So then this is so when does this kind of end? Where you're like, okay, so we're done with like middle school, grade school, whatever. What's high school like? Because now, and tell me if I'm wrong. You went to public school, right?
Yes.
And then you, so just like Sprague and those guys. What's the shift like in the sense of are you going to a new school with all new people because now you're going from grade school to high school, or is it all the same people for the most part?
It's a mixture, half and half. So the way it worked was we had a bunch of different public school, like elementary schools and middle schools, but then we only had one or two high schools. And so a bunch of people from my elementary and middle school ended up going to the same high school as me.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of people from other middle schools ended up coming to high school as well that I've never seen before. And so,
Oh, we
it
should
was
also say you're
a bit
originally
of a
from
mix.
New York. We didn't. We
Yes, I
totally
am
forgot to
from
talk
New
about
York.
that. Jason moved like a year before I moved down here, right? Maybe 2 years now. But so yeah, you and I are only like 5 hours away from each other. Just a little side note. But so you go to public school now. You have this mingling of multiple people. Would you say the social aspect is better for you, or would you say that you carried things from like that anger that you had to high school? Like when did it get easier to
Mm,
not lash out?
I mellowed out definitely in high school. I don't know why I did. Just for whatever reason in my memories, I just all of a sudden wasn't as angry, or at least I learned how to control my anger a lot better. So I don't know what the actual distinction was, but in high school, yes, I wasn't as angry or anything like that. I was still just as shut in as I was normally, so I didn't have a lot of relationships with people in high school at all.
Right.
Uh,
Well, you keep your friends
but
close, right? The ones that you do have, you keep close. You've always been like that.
mm, I'm very one-sided where I consider myself a bad friend in this regard, where I never really message you at all unless I need something from you, right?
Really?
And so I don't try, if you've noticed, I don't really message you for anything unless I need you for something. And so like I never reach out to say, hey, did you want to play this video game or
Yeah,
anything like
but
that.
don't you think that that's like, to me, in my mind, I would think that that's just like normal. Like if you needed something as a friend, I'm gonna be there for you. Like whatever you need, just ask me. But I don't know. I don't know what you really mean by that, in the sense of like I've never felt that you need something from me. Like if you ever needed to talk to me about something, just let me know.
Right.
Yeah, like I don't know. So give me the mindset behind that. This this went from podcast to therapy session real fast.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's
You
how a majority of my comments go because
That's
I'm a
okay.
very
No, I'm interested.
troubled
Luckily,
individual.
right, my degree is psychology. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but
Mhm.
you learn a lot on how to understand people. So because of that, I mean, I feel like this is a great conversation. But so give me this mentality: you don't want to text someone unless you need them, and you're not doing it probably because you feel like you're taking advantage of the friendship.
Uh,
Put
yes
him
and
in a
no.
blender.
So yes and no. It's one of those where I don't want to be a burden to people, and so that's why I don't really reach out. And but then also I am. It depends on my mood, honestly. I don't know what I'm saying, to be honest with you. I'm not thinking. I'm just kind of talking,
No,
and so I need to take a step
that's
back
what this
and think a bit
podcast
more.
is.
So
uh, so it's just kind of interesting because you say you don't want to be a burden, but I don't think anyone in this Discord, or our Discord, definitely would ever see you as that if you asked us for stuff. Like I think that's a you issue. You know what I mean? Because no one's thinking that. Like you've been friends with us for 10 years now. You're not gonna. No one cares about that kind of stuff. Maybe your other friends. I don't know your other friends, like
mhm.
the guys that you've met. I don't even know their names, but yeah, I have no. That's never been an issue for us. And you've, as I said, if anything, should be the opposite. I've asked you to do so many videos with me. I would feel like I'm taking advantage, but I mean, I feel like you like doing the videos with me, even though in the end, I was just talking with Cal and Matt last night about the old days. And I was talking to another person recently about this because she's a YouTuber as well, and we celebrated her 1 million views last night. Um, like when I first started, I'm sure you remember this, I was kind of tyrannical in the sense of like I wanted to get shit done because I was like, this is the time to strike. And I've definitely stopped that mentality many years ago. But even through that, you were pretty much there all the time. And I do appreciate that. I know I've told you that before. But like I would feel like I'm the one that's taken advantage, or like has tried to, I guess, in the way that you're explaining.
Right. So you are correct to where you reach out to me significantly more than I reach out to you.
Huh.
Um, that is just how I kind of prefer it. I don't like taking the initiative to reach out to people because I feel like I would either be a burden or other things like that. And so there was something I wanted to say when you were talking, and then I completely
It's
forgot
okay.
what it was. And
It's
so I lost
it,
my train of
it's
thought
just funny
here.
because, right, if we're all in the Discord together, like that Discord, Alan's Discord, everyone just kind of pops in and out. So I mean, you're always welcome to just pop in. You don't have to be asked to pop in. Everyone would be excited to see you. So that's why I think that's more of a mental thing for you, because no one sees you as a burden ever. Everyone calls you
Mhm.
the sweetheart of the Discord because of how
And
everyone loves you. Yeah.
huh.
So it's funny.
Well, so that's also that goes into a different thing as well. You remember how I said to Henry earlier when we were talking about Rainbow Six Siege?
Yeah, I
I
totally
don't
forgot
know.
about Henry until you mentioned him. And I don't, if Henry
Right.
ever sees this, I apologize. But I can't even remember what his username was. I can't remember any of that.
He changes his username a lot, so it's hard to pin him to just one.
Oh, okay.
But I used to play with him and his friends a whole bunch where they would always reach out to me and say, hey, we're playing this. Did you want to play? Stuff like that. And then I would always join whenever they would message me. I would drop everything and play with them. Uh, and then it got to the point where they said, hey, if you ever see us in the Discord, you can come by. You don't need an invitation or anything like that. But then I just stopped joining. Like, for whatever reason, I feel like a vampire in the regard to where I need to be invited to be able to partake. Otherwise,
Really?
like, I can't enter in the house, you know?
In a sense, I'm kind of like that, in a way of like, let's say in real life, if five friends were in a house and I walked in, I'm inviting myself. But Discord, I don't have that same feeling. right? Like I feel like that's kind of the
Mhm.
point of Discord, and that's why they're in there. Because my mentality is if they want to hang out together, they would probably do a private call, not just a like if they didn't want to be bothered. So I don't know. That's kind of a weird way of looking at it, I guess. Or I get your logic there, but it's not. It doesn't really work with Discord because that kind of defeats the purpose of Discord.
And I think that's due to just how, in general, I use Discord. Because way back in the day, I didn't even know about private calls or stuff like that. So we would just make a Discord call with just
Yeah.
normal
Well,
friends.
we were the first
And
ones to really use Discord back in the day when it first came out. I know back in the day, like 50 years ago, but no, it's 2016, started 2014 technically, but it was very basic at that point. And then 2016, when we got into it, that's when the servers started becoming a thing and the groups and all that. Like it's funny when you look back on kind of the history of Discord. Like if you look back on some old videos, you'll see like Discord looked very different than what it does now.
right.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting mindset. So just to, I'm gonna try and move the conversation along is the right thing. But like when we started playing Siege together, right? This was
Mhm.
so at this point it's you, me, Matt, Grant, Will, I Love Gold, and Master Chef Ben. That's when we got into Siege. But who was the friend group? I remember we had Seb, right?
Right.
Seb, I
Uh,
want to say there was a Tristan or something.
there was a person named Josh that I remember you
Josh.
not really liking too much. Um,
Yeah, we've definitely had some people in our discords that were cool for a little bit and then things kind of took a turn.
right.
Yeah. So
So
good.
I'm trying to think who else. Mostly Seb, we played with a bit. Josh, we played with a little bit. There was a person by the name of APOC. I don't know if you remember that
Wow.
name.
Yeah, I do. I do.
And so that person as well. And for those who are still looking at this video that were a part of that group and that I'm not remembering you, I am sorry. Um,
Yeah, it's funny. There's been a lot of
yeah,
people that have come in and out, and I just didn't realize it until you mentioned some names. But so you don't play with those guys anymore? Because I don't know your friend group outside of that. Like I only know the our friend group.
right.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really play with them much anymore. I used to play a lot with Henry and John, which was Henry's friend, and a bunch of their friend groups, right? And so that was one friend group that I would play with, and then I would play a bunch with my sister's partner and his friends. That would be another friend group,
You say
and
partner, but he
then
means husband.
husband.
Yeah.
Some people prefer different
Really?
things.
Yeah, interesting.
I think they preferred husband, but I said partner for whatever reason. I don't know
It's
why.
okay. I just wanted to make
But
sure.
yep. So they're married. So I played a bit with a couple of his friends. Then I also have a friend from high school, Frankie, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I play with him and a couple of his friends, and that's mostly it, really.
So what kind of group is that? Like what games are they playing? The same stuff we play, or are you trying? Are they more indie? Because I see you playing a lot of Space Marines.
Yeah, so different groups of friends for different games. Uh, Space Marine, I play with Frankie's friends, but Frankie doesn't have it, so we don't play with Frankie since
Right.
he doesn't have Space Marine. Also, it's a three-player thing, and so even if he did end
Oh,
up
really? I
getting
thought
it,
it
one
was
of his friends
four.
might have to sit out. Yeah, unfortunately, it's three, and so we would end up having to play the multiplayer if we wanted to play in like groups of four or something like that. Um, so that's who I play Space Marines with, his friends. My sister's husband, I end up playing um, mostly League of Legends with and Destiny. So that's League of Legends and Destiny that I play with.
So as you guys can see, Jason is like me. He plays pretty much everything. Whereas the
I
other friend group,
Yeah,
they play like 3 games. That's about it. Like the core friend group, like Matt and those guys, um, it's all uh, what like maybe Call of Duty, FIFA, and that's about it. That's really all they
a
play in
lot of
there.
FIFA, some League they play. Yeah, they stick to their types of games and stick with that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
just how it is in
then
there.
with Henry, it's we used to do a lot of Tarkov or Battlefield or a bunch of other games. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the friend groups, it's different for everyone, like in the sense of everyone plays something different. Uh, and the other problem is the games that we do play together kind of fall apart over time. So like Siege, no one really plays Siege anymore because it's just become such a lost cause a lot of the time. We've been playing it a little bit more with this new season, but I can only play so much Siege now. Like it's still baffles me. If you go back towards the beginning of the channel when we were just playing Siege, like Jason, it was in college. Like it was like I finished all my classes at 2 p.m. and then we played Siege till like 4 a.m. It was the only
mhm.
thing we played. So given we were in the ESL Open at that point, or we were practicing for it, but like I don't know how we did that because now I can't play a game for more than like 2 days, and then I'm good.
I would have to be really into the game to maintain it for that long.
Yeah.
Um, like you were saying with Rainbow Six Siege, where you fell off, I definitely fell off pretty hard too. To where I tried playing with you in the new season, but I just wasn't really enjoying it too much. It
It's
just
tough.
changed so much to where I don't enjoy the game anymore.
Yeah,
And
and I think a
so,
lot of games are like that. Like I don't know if Destiny's like that, but Destiny 2, I think that game's been out for what, like 6 years now. I would say feels like it.
I think it's doing its 10th anniversary now.
God,
And so, um,
but is there that much drastic
yeah.
change to that game?
Well, I wasn't around since the beginning for Destiny 2. They have gone through many different changes because
Mhm.
at first, what was it? Blizzard Activision, they were together when they released the Destiny 2, and so you had to pay for it to be able to play it, and then you had to pay for the expansions as well. Then they eventually made it free to play, and then they
Oh, that's
also
right. Yeah.
ended up separating from Activision Blizzard. And so now Bungie's doing their own thing, but now I think they're part of Microsoft or something. I could be wrong
Yeah, I
about
think they
that. I
got
don't know
bought
if they're
out.
independent.
So,
I'm not entirely sure where they go.
Jason, why don't you stick to a single game like the others do? Is it just that you get bored like me, or do you just like trying new things?
That's a good question. I mean, I do not entirely know the answer to that. I have my own comfort games that I find myself going back to from time to time, but I guess yeah, I just get bored of playing the same thing over and over again.
So, what got you into deck building games? Like, what about deck building do you like?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why I started deck building games. I know Slay the Spire was the biggest one that I started playing, but I don't know why I got into that or why I decided to start playing that. But from there, I had started playing many different deck building games like Magic the Gathering.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know you played Magic.
yeah, on the computer, I played Magic for a bit, Magic the Gathering Arena. And then they released it to Steam. The Steam release version didn't do too well. And also, the game has very bad monetization issues to where if you want to have a competitive deck, you either have to grind a lot to be able to get the components you need to make the cards that you want, or you have to spend a lot of moolah on it to get it.
That's like I think that's what happened to what the hell's the name of that game? I just had it in my head. Hell, what's the Hearthstone? I think that's the
Hearthstone,
yeah
yeah.
Hearthstone. Matt Sprague would complain about that all the time. Like you have to put in a lot of money to get a decent deck,
Mm.
which or you grind and it doesn't even make sense. Like I don't like grinding in games anymore.
Uh,
I don't know if I ever did, to be honest.
I definitely like grinding. Actually, that's the major reason why I liked Escape from Tarkov so much, doing the grind. Um, it's sad to say, but since I didn't have a job, I treated Tarkov like a job. Where way back in the day with Escape from Tarkov, you could go and grab things for your friends, like quest components, and you can hold on to them and then drop them in raid to your friends, and they can put it into their secure container. And basically, I would grind out the game, get all these components for myself, get the components for my teammates that I play with,
Damn,
and that way they didn't have to do any of the grinding. But since they were significantly better at the combat than I was, it was
made
kind of like
sense.
a trade-off where I was the grinder, I would get them up to where they needed to be to protect me so I could
Right.
continue grinding for people.
My brother's
Right.
kind of like that. So the other half of that Discord is Ken and those guys who play Rust. Kenny treats Rust better than he treats his real life, in the sense of Kenny's room is a goddamn mess. Like his apartment's a goddamn mess. But for some reason, he's so unbelievably organized in Rust, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, dude, this doesn't, like, come on.
I mean, it certainly makes sense to me. With Rust, you need to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. You have to make sure everything is organized because when you get raided, you need to know where things
These
are
are,
quick
yeah.
so you can react and protect your base. So I get that aspect to it.
Were you ever into those kind of games, like a Warcraft or like a long, like something that has a, I don't want to say a wipe, but something that you're putting in, like Dave, for instance, he's a big Warcraft guy. He's got like multiple level 70. Like, why'd you not get into those if you like the grind?
I actually, all the way through middle school up until like the start of high school, I played RuneScape a lot. And so
Oh,
that did have a grind. And so I was addicted to RuneScape for the longest time. I actually, one of my only memories that I have on RuneScape is I, for whatever reason, gave my password to some guy. And so he logged into my account and took everything. And then I was crying so hard
that's funny.
about it. And then that killed my enjoyment for RuneScape.
I remember when I was younger, I think it was RuneScape first and then World of Warcraft. And I was like, what do you mean I have to pay monthly to play this? And that's when I was like, oh, this is stupid. So, like, I can't do monthly subscriptions anymore. I did
Mhm.
World of Warcraft with Dave for a month just because Matt Spade was like, oh, you're going to get bored at level 15. But I got to max level and I really just did it so Matt could eat shit. That's about it.
Mhm.
So I didn't mind
Cool.
it, but I don't know people that can do that for years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I've been playing RuneScape for or when I did play it. Also, I never had the membership, so I was always doing the free content. Uh, and the reason why, to answer your question, why I didn't get into World of Warcraft is because my cousin used to play it, and my father thought it was dumb that I had to pay a subscription for video games. So he never allowed me to play World of Warcraft. And so I guess it's one of those where I had the sour grape mentality where since I couldn't have the game and I
Yeah, I
couldn't
didn't want to do
partake
that.
in it, I don't want it anyway. And so I convinced myself, I don't want to play it.
Yeah.
So now that well, I wouldn't say now that I have the funds, but since if I wanted to, I could pay for it. I could sit down and try it, but
Yeah.
I just haven't had an interest in trying it at all.
Yeah,
So,
that's one hell of a grind. Like, I don't know. Like, when you think of the people that have been playing for X amount of years, I don't know what the price is on that every year, but you've basically paid for like 8 full video games
mhm.
in the price of the one. I don't know. I don't like subscription based games. I don't even like battle passes. You'll never see me wearing skins in a battle pass or buying a battle pass for skins. So I don't know. I just don't get that mentality of just throwing more money at something. And we can get into video game stuff, but like I'm very sick and tired of like Call of Duty is the same thing every year. The guys in the other Discord, they played the beta for Black Ops 6. They hated it. So I don't know. I'm becoming less and less interested in the AAA games that we grew up playing, and more interested in the indie games. Like we're doing the walkthrough for that Astoria game or whatever. That was phenomenal. I did the recording for it. But like those are the games that are fun to me. Whereas like Call of Duty, I'm just so bored of it. Yeah. I don't know
Right.
if you get that same feeling. And I think you do because you kind of described it in Siege. But there's nothing that I'm super excited for in the AAA space anymore.
There's a handful of games here and there, but the biggest problem is I don't really buy video games anymore unless they're on a really good sale or if I'm kind of coerced by my friends group to do it.
Right. Coerced. You're
Coerced.
right.
I didn't know if I was saying it properly. So yeah, that's the only time I really buy video games at full price. Otherwise, I wait for sale. And even then, I have such a large backlog that I'm not really buying video games. I can just sit down and play old things that I have.
I remember like
But
3 years ago, Jason bought Sekiro's and he still hasn't even launched it once. I bought him
yeah, I have
Elden Ring
not.
for his birthday and he still has not launched it
Yeah.
once.
Well, fortunately, since I finished Dark Souls 2 and I already did Dark Souls 3, I can start on Sekiro and Elden Ring afterwards. I just have to get around to doing it, is the thing. And so I just need to be in a space where I want to. Honestly, just grinding out Dark Souls 2 and 3 really killed my enjoyment of Souls for now.
Right.
And
At
so I
least you're
had to
going
take a
for
break for it.
platinums. Like if you go for the platinums, then yeah, that's a grind. But like I had to I'm doing the walkthrough for Black Myth Wukong, and I didn't realize how much grinding there was for materials. Luckily, I got most of them in my first playthrough. But dude, it took me like 2 days to get one item, and I was like, I'm wasting my life here. It's like,
Do
how
they
long
have
is this gonna
anything to
take?
increase your item drops, or?
There's a couple things you can do to increase the item drops, but there's something in the game called seeds, and to get those seeds, not only do you have to wait, like you literally go to trees and you pull the fruit off, and there's a chance you get a seed. They only respawn every 30 minutes in real time. So even if I had a higher drop rate, it really didn't it really didn't matter because I would have to wait the 30 minutes anyway. So one item I had left took the longest time by far. So
Right.
yeah, I hate farming in video games, but for some reason I tolerate it in Souls games. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The only thing I'm excited for video game wise is Silksong, and we still don't really have a date on that.
Right.
So
I still never finished the base game, the Hollow Knight, the first one. And so
when are you gonna finish something?
That's the problem. Apparently I'll finish Space Marine too, but
Yeah,
like
Hollow
I
Knight's a
finished it
classic.
already.
That's considered a masterpiece game.
Yeah, I know.
Dog, you're not
I
even playing the
went through it a lot.
masterpieces.
Yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, I do like indie games, but I also like a subset of that where it's indie multiplayer,
Right.
and then I play with people. And so, like, Valheim was a big thing that I really enjoyed, just indies like that, where it's not really AAA.
V Rising. Did you play V Rising at all?
No, I didn't play V Rising. I was going to say Remnant 2, but I don't know if that's technically a AA game over an indie game. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Remnant 2, I like that game, but after playing it, because you and I did the platinum for the first one, and then the second one we played, I'm not like super excited for the DLC. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's just gonna kind of be the same thing. We're gonna do the gameplay for it, I guess, eventually. But I don't know. I just feel like Remnant 2. I don't want to say it was a letdown, but I just feel like we did everything that it had to offer. And because of that, I'm not like I know you went back and you grinded a lot of the items
yes,
that you didn't get. Yeah.
Far as I know, according to the wiki, man, I throw a lot of shade at Fextra Life's wiki.
He
From
does.
what I can tell, I got everything that's shown on their wiki.
Okay.
And so if they're missing stuff, I would be missing that.
Wow.
But I got basically everything in the game that I could have that is shown on Fextra Life's
I would
wiki.
argue that you are probably the number one Remnant player. I think it's true. I think
No, I wouldn't go
from
that
knowing everything about that game, I think you're the person I would go to on how to get stuff.
Just going through to experience the combat or the content, yes. When it comes to the combat, I am horrible at trying to play on Apocalypse difficulty or anything like that. I can't dodge for
But
shit,
I just
even
remember
with a better computer.
you were doing builds that I was like, how is Jason? You guys can go back and watch the videos. I was like, how the fuck is Jason not going down here? I just watched him take like 4 explosives and not even get chunked.
Yeah, that was a big meta build that they ended up nerfing a little bit. I really like build crafting games, and I think that's why I find Destiny 2 so appealing, or at least why I did. And that's why I also like card games as well. Just being able to craft my own way of playing is really appealing to me.
Yeah, I like deck builders, but it has to be a really good deck builder. Like, what's the name of that one that I played and you really liked it? I know that's very vague.
Inscription.
Inscription. See, Jason and I are just on the same wavelength.
So I actually 100% did that one. That 100% was pretty rough because they released a DLC called Casey's Mod. It was a free DLC. It was basically more of the first act of Inscription, which was the best part of it. And it was rough because you had a bunch of skulls, and so you had to beat the game with all of the skulls active. And so it made the game really hard to where you had to cheese the mechanics to be able to be successful in it to get that achievement. So that was rough.
There's a certain level of dedication you have to have for some of the games that we've platinumed. Like when I did Prey, I think to this day Prey was the most tedious because Prey's DLC is like almost like a dungeon crawler, and I didn't quite. It took me like a month to understand it, and then getting the achievements, you're like, oh my god, this is brutal. But Bethesda always makes good games. I don't think I've ever been let down by a Bethesda game. There's definitely some that are better than others, but I don't know which one let me down.
Starfield. I was looking at your recent
Oh, that's
podcast with
right.
Grant, and you mentioned Starfield.
Good call. That game's so bad. I forgot that was even a thing.
So
Sorry.
yeah, Starfield was not very good from what I heard. I haven't played. Same with Prey. I played through a little bit but never finished. I'm going
Oh,
back
that's
to
a
not
great
finishing
game.
games.
You gotta see if you can beat my speed run. I'll say this: ever since I started the speed, so when I started the PRs, the pancake PRs, I kind of did it just for like the something to do with viewers and have viewers like try and beat something. It's actually very fun to speed run a game. Certain games, some I'm like, why am I doing this? But there's other games like I just did Resident Evil Revelations 2 days ago. I didn't even know
Mhm.
it. I have the second place world record.
Oh, that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
I lost it by like less than 2 minutes. So
Damn.
without
Really?
even knowing, I was like, oh, okay. But so in that regard, it's fun, and you get your platinum because you've gone through it so many times. You're like, oh, okay, I might as well. So it's kind of like killing three birds with one stone. I get to play a game that's tons of fun if I like it. I get to speed run it. Cool. Okay, set a PR, and then getting my platinum, which is a little bit of work, but the Resident Evil games are very well done in the sense of how they're played or how they want you to play them. I don't know if you've played them, but they're phenomenal. You're not a
I've
horror guy,
played
right?
through. Yeah, no, I'm not really a horror guy, but there are certain games that I would engage with that is horror. And so, like, for whatever reason, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2, and so I played through Resident Evil 2, the remake.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Um, I have Resident Evil 3, but I never finished. Oh, well, actually, I didn't even start yet.
The,
Resident Evil 5, I tried playing with a friend because that was the first one where you could do co-op, but that game made me feel very sick due to the settings that they had on it,
yeah,
and
I'm
the
about to
controls
play
didn't
that
know how to
one with
fix it.
someone, and I'm very curious to see if I get that same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, looking at Reddit, a lot of people have that problem, and so I can't put my finger on what it is, but there's something funky with the game, maybe the FOV that I I get sick trying to play it, and I'm not one for getting motion sick or anything like that. So,
I notice I get a little, I don't want to say sick, but I definitely get drained when I play the finals. Like something about the finals when we're playing with Mike, my like
mhm.
at the end I'm just like, man, I can't take anymore. It might be the fact that it's 3 games, like your first phase, second phase, third phase.
Right, the tournaments take a
Maybe,
while.
yeah, maybe that's why. But I don't know. It's something about that game specifically kind of gives me that, I don't want to say headache, but just that feeling of I have nothing left in my system.
Hmm.
So
I never really experienced that while playing it, so next time we play, I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that and see if I feel the same thing.
yeah, we might play in a little bit because my brother just asked and he's like, "Oh, finals." They're coming down this
Right.
week, so he wants to get his games in. So Michael is moving down to Florida with Kenny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Right. I mentioned, or you mentioned it in passing when we were playing last time, but I didn't get anything concrete, so.
yeah, he moves on Thursday. So my dad and him are gonna come here because I'm the midway point, and then from there down to Florida. Which
Right.
I was like, oh, it's a halfway point. They got another 12 hours. So from my house in New Jersey to here, it's 8 hours, and then from here to Florida, it's 12. I was like, oh, that's a lot in the car.
Hmm.
So yeah. There was something else I was gonna say. Uh, we were talking about. Oh yeah, Resident Evil. So back to the Resident Evil games. Like I was not the biggest. I wouldn't say I wasn't a fan of Resident Evil. Like I thought 7 and 8 were really good, but I didn't get the story, and now I went back to kind of learn the story and platinum the games and whatnot. Number 2 and 3, the remakes, are some of the greatest games I've ever played. Like, and I'm not saying that in the sense of like tooting its horn or anything. They're just very well done in the sense of you can tell they designed it for the player, not for the story. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, the games are phenomenal to run through Resident Evil 2 that I did, which piggybacking off of one of your thoughts, you say Resident Evil 2 and 3 are one of the best games you ever played. Interestingly, if you did care about the story, the original games, not the remakes, had better stories.
yeah,
For whatever reason, there was cut content in the remake, and they reworked some things to where the story kind of falls flat from what some people were saying.
they said that
So,
about 3. 3 is the one that everyone gives a lot of shit for.
mhm.
And then 4 was phenomenal as well. Like 4, I never played the originals, so I guess I don't have that mentality of like, oh, this is why it's bad. But I will say, like, 4 is a phenomenal game. That was a fun platinum. It really was. And that's kind of important. Like, I like a grind for a platinum, but it has to be fun. And Resident Evil, so far, all of them have been fun. I tried doing the Revelations platinum, but there's no servers anymore for the multiplayer ones. And then the other one's kind of like the grind in Batman, where it's like, oh, try and get all the challenges done. And it's like the same thing over and over. And you're like, oh, I don't really want to do this. So it's not really worth it. It doesn't help the story. Like, at least the other ones, it's all campaign based. So
Right.
that's why I had to put those away. But I don't know. Like, those are the games I'm starting to appreciate a little more. And I'm excited to get to 7, and I'm about to start 5 with someone. So, yeah, that's what I look forward to.
Well, depending on what you like about Resident Evil, 5 and 6 may not have it. So a lot of people really like the horror aspect of Resident Evil. For whatever reason, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 took a departure from that, where they're more action games first, and then horror with, like, they're action games first with horror undertones. And so they're not really scary. And so if you like it for that horror aspect, they kind of fall flat in that regard.
Yeah, the horror's cool, but to me, it's more about the story. And truth be told, so I played 7 first, then went back. So I did 7 and 8 and then restarted. And we're going to do 7 and 8 again for the speedrun and whatnot. But with 7 and, like, I don't know where the story goes from, like, 6 to 7. Like, I don't know how we got to the first person aspect. And I just have to look into the story and how it works. But, like, I don't even know.
I'm not familiar with the lore either, so I'm not sure.
Like, what happened to Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield? Like, I don't even think they're involved or mentioned in 7 and 8. But truth be told, I wasn't really paying attention. Like, maybe they are part of it and I've just never noticed.
Yeah, in 8, Chris Redfield is involved. I think a little bit in 7 as well.
Okay.
But I don't know about Leon Kennedy.
Leon. He's my guy. I like Leon.
So, we were talking a little bit about achievements earlier. I'm curious, what makes you want to get achievements in video games?
That's a great question, and I think you and I have talked about this before, but my mentality is if I'm going to pay for something, I'm going to do everything that game has to offer because I get my money's worth. I'm someone that does not like spending money. So in that regard, if I am going to put money into something, and the reason that is because I've been let down in so many games in the past couple of years that I'm tired of spending more money on these games. So if I am going to pay for it, I'm going to get everything involved in that game. So that's why, again, not to promote the Games Pass, even though I'm still waiting for my sponsorship. The Games Pass, I'm able to play things for $10 a month, maybe get through the achievements if I want to, and a lot of them I do. But that pushed me to really start doing the achievements in games, as well as the fact that I just don't like wasting money. So that's why, like you, I will get a game on sale if I'm not sure if I'm going to plat it or not. But when I say on sale, I mean it's got to be a game that is so cheap. Because for the summer sale, I got all the Resident Evils, and it cost to get every single Resident Evil with their DLC, and I had 7 and 8 already. It was like $50.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. There is a lot of Resident Evil games.
Lot.
Plus a lot of DLC.
Yeah, so you had 1, 2, 3, Veronica, 0. I forget if I said 4. Revelations, 6, Revelations 2. That's 9 video games at a minimum. There might be more. 9 video games for $50. That's pretty wild.
Do you know if it came with Raccoon City, Operation Raccoon City, and stuff like that? Or no?
Is that the DLC or is that I forget if that's
No, they're like spin-off games.
Yeah, I tried to. I didn't get the spin-off games because I didn't feel like they were that important to the story, so I only stuck with the core games. There are some Resident Evils are like arcade shooters. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I was like,
I was going to say yes, but I think I'm remembering the House of the Dead instead.
It's that gameplay style,
right?
And I'm not
knew
a
what
fan.
You were talking about, but no, I haven't played that Resident Evil game then.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do the Silent Hill series next because I'm going to give it a shot. I've been practicing the speed run for that one. Silent Hill 2 looks really good, but it's a remake. So I'm like, do I want to do the remake or like I don't know what's true to the story, how much they changed. But
Mhm.
I didn't realize how many games there were to Silent Hill. I thought there was like 2. I was like, oh, 1 and 2. There's like 12 games.
That I did not
Yeah,
know.
there's a
I'm not
lot.
big into looking at Silent Hill.
Yeah, but
So
I'm getting
very
more into the
interesting.
stories. I'm getting more into the story games. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of God of War. That's like my number one
Mhm.
of all time. So
Funnily enough, God of War Ragnarok came out on PC a while ago, and a lot of people are mentioning how the game has really low player numbers due to it being blocked by the PSN requirements
I saw that.
in those countries. Yeah.
Ready? Here's a hot take, and I said this on stream yesterday. A lot of the negative comments were people complaining about like mouse and keyboard sensitivity. If you play
Right.
God of War or Dark Souls or any of those games or fighting games with anything but a controller, you are the problem.
Mm.
I refuse to believe that people actually do that. There's a kid in stream last night talking about how he plays fighting games with just his keyboard, and he basically does like W, A, S, and D, and then his arrow keys. And I was like, dude, just get a controller.
Mhm.
Just get one.
I mean, I suppose mouse and keyboard would be similar to the big controllers that people make. Like they make custom
Yeah.
like game boards for fighting games, and so I guess maybe a keyboard is trying to emulate that. I'm not entirely sure, but I understand what you're saying. But and I agree, I wouldn't really try playing Dark Souls with mouse and keyboard. But
That's
I
psychotic.
also think that the game should be somewhat playable with its control scheme on mouse and keyboard.
I guess.
And so I think a lot of people are taking issue on how the default bindings are trash.
Yeah, I don't know what the default bindings are because I'm a sane human being and just play with a
Mhm.
controller like a normal person. but but that's like people like I get that there's a certain level of immersion in the sense of like with racing games, like it's more fun with the wheel. You can get by with a controller. Mouse and keyboard is brutal because you don't have the smooth controls. I guess you could say like there's no way you can slightly press a or
Yeah.
your D key. Now there's keyboards that will allow you to do that, but I mean they're like $300 keyboards. That's not worth it
Mhm.
either. So like one Xbox controller, I don't know how many controllers you've gone through, but I have my custom one here, which is the PlayStation, but it has I'm sorry, it has the button layout and like feel of an Xbox, but it has the bumpers of a PlayStation. So it
Mhm.
feels really good because I like PlayStation bumpers a lot. Like I like the trigger feeling, whereas the Xbox one I don't really like. So I
Yeah, I
love that
remember you
controller.
talking a lot about that controller and you think highly of it. As to how many controllers I had a lot of different controllers for the Xbox 360, but none of them are compatible for computer.
Oh,
And
really?
so,
Damn.
yeah, for whatever reason, you needed a certain. Yeah, basically, if you wanted to use an Xbox 360 controller, from what I understand, you needed to get a Xbox 360 controller that has an integrated cable. Because if you try using the charging cable that you used for the Xbox 360, that doesn't connect to the computer, so you
Oh,
can't use it.
wow.
And
Yeah,
so
I
what I
just use a
have,
regular. I don't know about you. I just have like a usual macro or micro SD and then or micro flash, and then I think all of mine. Oh no, that's actually not true. This Xbox controller is a Type C. Everything's going
right,
Type
so
C. I don't mind it, but
yeah, so the EU is requiring most phones to move over to USB Type C now. And so it's great that we're moving towards a cable standard. And that's more so modern Xbox things. I'm talking about Xbox 360 before that was really a thing. Um, and so, yes, this controller that I have right here, it is old, dusty, crusty. This you can use with an Xbox One.
dude, is
It
it?
has USB Type
That's
C.
like a relic now.
And so this can be used for both, and it has the removable USB Type C that you can plug into a computer, and
Right.
that's fine. But I personally like the layout and feel of a genuine Xbox 360 controller, as I show holding out a not genuine Xbox 360 controller.
I was like, wait, I don't think they
Um,
made clear ones.
no, this is just a It was funny. I was watching a documentary on this the other day where it's an Afterglow product, and so they were talking about third-party peripherals for
Dude,
playing video games.
you're naming Afterglow. I haven't heard that since I was in like high school. That's like the scuff
So
controllers. Remember every kid
yeah, Mad Cats is another
if you
one.
knew a kid that had a scuff controller, you were like, oh, he must be good.
Yeah,
He must be drop
yeah,
shotting in Modern Warfare lobbies. But yeah, I just remember I
the
told the
extra
story
buttons
the
and
other
that.
day of back when I was in high school. We had the way I got into multiplayer games was freshman year. That's when Modern Warfare didn't come out, but it came to PC and Mac, and we would do LAN parties with everyone in my school. So that's where I got into the multiplayer gaming. But that's really, I would say, like, it's funny. I should have been doing school. I should have been studying and
Mhm.
shit. I was just learning how to play games. It was all I wanted to do. So I think that also kind of leads into my, I don't know if I would call it an obsession, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I think you're very similar to me in the sense of the games that we like and try. Whereas I think that's why you and I are so close because we try different things. Like if I tried to name an indie game in the other Discord, they're like, "You're an idiot. You're wasting money." I'm like, "Okay, guys, cool. You guys play
Mhm.
FIFA every year. It's the same game, copy and pasted." Like,
Right. Yeah.
Matt was so funny last night because I guess Matt's FIFA 25 isn't working right. So he
Mhm.
was not happy. But I know what I wanted to ask you. So remember we were talking about the anger and issues and stuff. Were you the kind
Yeah.
of kid that would smash a controller or no?
No, I never smashed a controller, and I think that's because I would have gotten in trouble, like
Right.
really bad trouble, if I did so. Um, and so no, I took pretty decent care of my controllers. I haven't smashed any.
I had a friend. I would go to his house, and I've never seen this before, but he had holes in his basement wall from all the controllers that he would just whip at the wall, and he would leave them in there.
Wild.
I was like, "Oh, is that like an art piece that you split them in half and like you would put them in there?" He's like, "No, I was just getting so angry, I would just whip them at the wall." I was like, "Wow, okay."
Yeah, that's crazy to me for how angry I get or got at the time. Like, yeah, no, that never. I wasn't destructive with my property.
My youngest brother Michael's like that, or he used to be, but he got to the point where he would have a secondary controller just for breaking. So like
Hmm.
it would be like already broken. He'd pick it up and just chuck it.
Hmm.
So he was smart enough not to break his good ones.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So
So there was something I wanted to ask, but now this kind of goes back into the vault here, right? We
go
were
for it.
talking about video games earlier,
Back in the vault if you
and
want to
you
take it
were
out, you're saying?
well, no, like the vault of like we talked about it way earlier in the
Sure,
video,
sure, go for
right?
it.
And so user retention might have forgot already. So
Yeah,
like I'm kind of drudging it back up.
it's fine.
So you said you went through and you started playing video games with your let me rephrase that. Hold on. So you ended up starting playing multiplayer games through recently you just said you had started playing through multiplayer games in school on the computer, right? So that made me think, I don't think I ever heard this story before. How did you get into Call of Duty Zombies?
That's a great question. It's funny because I feel like I don't know if I talked about that. I definitely talked about it recently, but I don't know if I said it on stream or with Matt or something. But I was telling I know who I was talking to. But when I was a freshman in college, my friend across from me. So okay, let me start over. So how did I get into zombies? So high school I started playing zombies in the sense of let me just give it a rip, and this is my senior year. Then I go to college. Now you know me; I was never a partier or someone that would go out. Freshman year, it was the floor of all dudes. That's just how they did it. The one floor was dudes, floor in between was girls, and then bottom floor was more guys. So one other kid across from me named Joe Vanucci, who I still see him from time to time on Facebook and stuff. Great kid. He was like this star swimmer, and he couldn't party because if he wasn't like if he was drinking and like he was just a good kid. I don't think he needed an excuse to drink or anything or go party as a freshman. But he was right across from me. It was him and Ian. I don't remember Ian's last name, but Joe and I on weekends, on Saturdays, he and I would stay in like Fridays and Saturdays. And he and I, we would order food like chicken fingers, French fries, pizzas, right? It was so much food. It was disgusting. I don't know how he ate that much. So we would go and get it. We'd see all of our drunk friends who would go to this place called Goodfellas at Scranton, and then they would get their slice of pizza. We'd say hi. Then we'd go back. When I was a freshman, first quarter or first semester, my roommate never showed up. So I had a room to myself. So what I did was I king sized the beds with the TV in front of me. And Joe and I, no homo, Joe would take one side, I was on the other side, and we would just sit there and play Black Ops 2. And he showed me the Easter eggs, and he was good at it. So he and I would play for like 6 hours straight Origins, specifically Origins, because that one you could do 2-player. So we started with Transit, and that one was pretty easy, like once I understood it. And then Origins was when he showed it to me. It took us like days to do. And yeah, he absolutely crushed it with me. So that's what got me into zombies. What got me into custom zombies was watching a Scene Anners video, or it might have been a Vanoss video. And I was like, whoa, how do I do this? And that was actually the reason I built a custom PC. Like I wanted to do the YouTube thing, but I was like, oh, the only way of doing this is by having a PC. Like you can't do it on an Xbox easily. So at that point, that's when we would play. Like Joe and I we'd just plow through those. And then later on, like literally that's the year where I met you. And then we started doing World at War Zombies, and then Black Ops 3 eventually. But Black Ops 3 didn't come out till 2015.
Right.
So I went from Black Ops 2 to World at War, where we were doing the. Do you remember the UGX mods where you had to go into the files and move it over? So
and then we tried getting Will into it, and he was having problems with it,
Will could not figure it out. So if you guys go back, Will was, what was Will's username? I'm still friends with him on Snapchat.
He goes by Clutch.
Clutch, thank you. And we didn't see him that much, but definitely not as much anymore. But he wanted to do zombies with us, and it just didn't, like, he couldn't figure it out. Like he couldn't figure out how to get this mod in. But I've told you before, there's really no one else I want to play zombies with except you, because you and I have like this chemistry when it comes to zombies that I can play with my brothers and Alan and those guys, and it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't translate. So right. You and I just work very well together. But yeah, so that's how I got into zombies. Yeah, and a few other games. So how'd you get into zombies?
Oh, funny. So this is way back in the day around the release of Black Ops 1. I just finished playing the Black Ops 1 campaign, and I don't know if you remember, but when you finish the Black Ops 1 campaign, they throw you straight into a zombies match.
Same thing with World at War. Yeah.
And so I did not know that. I knew what zombies was at the time. I was able to recognize the user interface, but I have never played. You see the one come up on the wave, and you're like, oh! So they put me into a match. I'm like, what the hell is this, right? And so it was 1, and then you see the blood splatter at the bottom where your D-pad is. And then I realized, oh my god, I'm in a zombies match. And so I cried. I got up, I ran to the Xbox 360, I powered it off, and cried for a while. And so I haven't touched zombies for a long, long time after that. It wasn't until my sister started trying to play with one of her friends, and so she was using my Xbox, and so I was watching her play it, and so then I started getting more accustomed to it. I lost my fear of zombies just watching her play.
Right.
And so then when Black Ops 2 comes around, I started playing Black Ops 2 on my own, and that's when I started getting into zombies. And so the first memory that I have of Black Ops Zombies that I always remember, Black Ops 2 Zombies, is I met a very good friend that I don't talk to anymore, and I really wish I still was able to talk to him. His name is Parker. So I queued up for a transit match, and it was just me and him in a public transit match. I don't know why there weren't other people, but so it was just him and I. He was on the bus and he said, "All right, I gotta go and do something real quick. Protect me." So now he's
Never
AFK
what you
in the
want to hear.
transit bus. AFK for 20 minutes. I'm desperately trying to protect him. The waves got too high to where I ended up dying, he ended up dying, and the game was over. So I ended up staying in the lobby with him, and he comes back, and he's like, "What the heck just happened?" when he got back, and I said, I couldn't defend you." And then we've been playing video games ever since throughout my Xbox 360 career. And so I was playing a bunch of different Black Ops 2 zombie maps with him. We did the Origins Easter egg together. We did Transit, and then through there as well, I ended up meeting a couple of my other friends. I actually remember their names as well, so I guess I'll name drop them. Dennis, Lamar, Nick, and Master Navy SEAL. So
all regular names and then Master Navy SEAL.
yeah.
It's funny.
And
so
for whatever
go
reason,
ahead.
for whatever reason, we called Master Navy SEAL Arm and Hammer because his mother would come in and she was a foreign speaker. I don't know what language she was saying, but she would say Armin, Armin. So we figured his name was Armin, and so we started calling him Arm and Hammer. And so yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. I'll go like when I launch my Xbox Home Companion, and I see all the friends list of like it'll say friends haven't been on in 5 years. I'm like, oh man, that kind of hurts a little bit. Kind of brings back high school memories, but I just remember transit. I just remember the second you get off that bus, your heart drops. You know, the second you get that freaking little gremlin on your head and you're just knifing until it gets off. Transit to this day, Transit's still one of my favorite maps, if not my favorite. Because I just love the idea that people give me shit for that. They're like, how could you like Transit? I love the concept of that.
it's very interesting ideas, and I also appreciate how they got around the limitations of the hardware. The reason why they have the denizens and why the smoke is there is because the map couldn't load if you didn't have those things. If you run through, from what I remember, if you run through the map without the denizens slowing you down, like the game wouldn't load properly. And so they had to slow you down for the game to load on the console.
Gotcha.
And so that's what I remember. I'm not entirely sure if I'm spreading misinformation or not.
I believe it.
But yeah.
I just remember zombies when people. So when I was in high school, there was a professor named Mr. Quadro who one day, like when Black Ops 1 came out, he goes, okay, this is the strategy. He basically told everyone to clear their desks. He said, to get to high rounds, you got to get on the desk. You got to, like our teacher was telling us this. So that's when I was like, oh, this is like a. This is that, you know what? That's when I realized that it's not, video games are not a kid's thing. It's an everyone thing. Right? Like I had parents that always like, this is not going to amount to anything. They're fun, but you're not going to do this for life. Like video games aren't going to be a life thing. It's fun while you're young. But then you start seeing the adults, and then you start seeing guys like Ninja making tens of $1 million a year. And that really changed everything for me in the mindset of like, oh, this could be a career. Now, in my eyes, like if someone was to ask me, like, what do you do for a living? I don't say I play video games for a living. I say I make videos. I'm an editor. So that's kind of the difference. But, and then, I do other things outside of that. But if someone was to ask me, like, are you a gamer? I would say, yeah, but I make money from making videos. So that's what I'm trying to say is I realized that video games were not just for kids. They were for adults too. I actually had friends growing up whose parents would play together. I was like, that's wild. They would play like the OG Call of Duties together on Xbox 360 back when when we were paying for live, which is still wild that people have to pay for live. Just throwing that out there.
So I'm very curious. Do you remember when video games started becoming a bit more mainstream and when they're not really considered the nerdy thing? Because I remember getting bullied for playing video games, and now everybody and their mother plays video games.
Really? So I'm a little older than you. I don't remember everyone I knew played video games, but in my defense, I went to a much smaller school. I didn't go to public school. I went to a private Catholic school. If I was getting bullied, it was because I was being an idiot. So, and I was a transfer. I think I told you that, but I was only in my school for freshman, sophomore year. Then I transferred to a different school in high school. So everyone played video games. I never met someone. We would go to each other's houses to play video games. Like if one friend had a PS3 and I wanted to play something on PS3, I'd go to their place. If someone had a 360, I'd go to the other. But I didn't remember. I didn't get an Xbox 360 till I was a senior in high school, like almost a decade after it came out.
Hmm.
So I remember the Xbox 360 came out when I was in like third grade. So
Interesting. Okay. I'm trying to remember when the Xbox came out, and I don't have the exact year for it.
yeah, I remember I was in third grade, and then so the way I got, I hope my mom and dad see this, but when I transferred schools, I wasn't allowed to get an Xbox or a PlayStation until I got straight A's. And I think after like 5 years of me not breaking A's and B's, they were like, okay, how about this? If you can get from CP, college placement, to honors, we'll get you an Xbox 360. And I was like, oh, okay. Literally, I asked my teacher. I just went up to her. I was like, can you put me in honors? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she puts me in honors. My parents get me the 360, right? No exaggeration. A month later, I go to that same teacher. I'm like, can you put me in AP? And she's like, yeah, I can put you in AP. She puts me in AP. I'm like, Mom, Dad, can I get a PS4? So in 1 month, I got a 360 and a PS4 in one go.
Damn, look at you go.
Yeah. So that's just how my gaming. I wasn't a big gamer, and I think I told my mom this. Like, I think the reason I went down this path of being a YouTube gamer is because of how I wasn't allowed to have it growing up. Because and it's not that I couldn't have it; it was my parents put a limit on it. They thought that it wouldn't equate to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of the mentality. And now it's funny. I tell my dad all the time, like, how does it feel that your son now makes a living somewhat playing video games? And I think he respects it a lot more now that my brothers are more into it. My dad's an athlete, and so are we, of course. But to him, it was like, you're wasting time when you can be doing a sport like we did when we were younger. I'm like, Dad, houses were $20 back then too. So let's calm it down. So
Right. So while you were giving that story, it made me remember different things that I wanted to talk about. And
go
so
for it.
one of them was, don't tell me I forgot already.
Okay, take your time.
Oh,
Beauty of editing. We could just edit it down. Like, can you believe we've already done an hour and 17? It's funny how these go by so fast.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do go down. The time flies.
Yeah.
Reminiscing.
We kind of went down memory lane yesterday too. We were talking about like PUBG and all those, and we were talking about some of our best moments. Yeah. So I don't know. One of these days, I'd like to go back. I have enough videos now where I could probably go back and look at some of them. But I know that the editing, I've told you, like, it took me 8 years to figure out like how to edit because I didn't have an editing background and all that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just
Gotcha. So yeah, I remember a couple of things now. So for a while, people were making gaming content on YouTube and making good money from it, but my parents never really understood how powerful it was until like Fortnite came out and a lot of streamers were starting to make big money off it. And then they were like, "Oh wow, okay, now I see how you can make a living off of this."
My dad, I remember when the first time Ninja was on ESPN, and I think that's when my dad was like, oh, there's something to this. And I just remember, I doubt he even remembers this. He was just like, so are you good at any of these? And I was like, I used to be good at Siege, and this was like maybe 4 years ago. He goes, what do you mean used to? And I was like, we don't really play it anymore. He was like, okay. And then he just walked out. I was like, oh, okay, Dad. Yeah, I was like, I play other things. But I don't know. It's not like I've ever... I think sometimes I make it sound like my dad and I aren't close because he's not into the same things that I'm into, which is not true. I'm definitely equally as close with my dad as I am my mom, and my mom and I have a podcast together, as you know. So this podcast, actually. So it's not like that. It's not like my dad and I don't have this relationship, but my dad and my brothers are more into sports and cars. More so Kenny's into cars, but that's just not me. Like, I appreciate that stuff, but that's not the stuff I'm interested in. Like, my dad and I will talk about just like he'll teach me some things like when we're talking, but to talk about like a conversation, if I wanted to talk about politics, my dad, he could hold a conversation. It's not like we're that different, but that's just how he and I are.
Right.
Yeah. So I know like if I needed something, he'd talk to me about it, but We just don't have that. He comes down on Thursday. I'm sure we'll talk about some things. Usually it's like, oh, how's the apartment? How's living on your own? Stuff like that. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny. My dad, I'm going to say, hopefully my dad doesn't see this, but my dad's more the emotional one. Like he's going to, like, I'll never forget when my dad dropped me off in college my freshman year. Like 20 minutes later, he called me crying. He's like, "I miss you already." I was like, "Oh, Dad." I'm so, like, my dad definitely has that kind of soft spot. So
Gotcha.
that's
Okay.
that's why our relationship, even though we don't have really anything in common, we'll play sports together, but they'll follow sports. I don't follow sports. So
Mhm.
my dad and I, we're close, of course, but we just don't have that much in common. And I don't think if I said, "Hey, Dad, let's sit down and play a video game," he wouldn't say yes. I don't think. We used to play some sports games together, and I think if I showed him what a video game looks like now, we used to play like MLB Slugfest and the old 2Ks like 2K04.
Mhm.
But if I showed him a video game today, and he's seen like my brother play UFC on PS5 and what they look like nowadays, maybe he'd be more inclined to do it. So I have the projector
The living room
my
for your
living,
TV.
yeah, the 155 inch, and I caught him really watching my brother play UFC, and I was like, oh, he's getting interested. So it's fun. My dad's an interesting guy. We did a podcast together about like growing up and his life a little bit, kind of more of an interview, and yeah, it's I love both my parents, of course. There's definitely, I go to my mom for certain things. I go to my dad for certain things. So I always tell people I have some of the greatest parents ever, and I'm very fortunate. So
Mhm.
that dynamic, again, I understand some people don't have that, and it's a shame. But I am definitely blessed in that regard, no question about it. So hopefully my
Right.
dad does another podcast with me at some point, but definitely not this week because he's mid travel. So yeah. But I think he more so, to wrap it back to your question, I think when he started seeing the big names on TV, like now you're seeing Kai Cenat on T-Mobile commercials, you see I Show Speed all the time, Dr. Disrespect in the news, whether it's for good or bad. I think
Mhm.
it's not so much the gamers that my dad cares about. It's like the fact that these YouTube news things are starting to be more in the limelight, like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, Jake Paul. There's something to it.
Right.
So sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
No, you're fine.
So yeah, what about you? So that's what your parents are like. Okay, this might be something.
Yes. And so I have a lot of self-esteem issues. And so when streaming started taking off with Fortnite, they're like, "Oh yeah, a lot of people are making money off of streaming. Like why don't you do that?" And so I had to remind them first off, our internet is horrible, so I can't stream.
Are you
And
ether?
then
Jason, are
second
you
off,
Etherneted in? Do you have an Ethernet?
yeah,
Or
for my computer, yes, I actually
okay.
don't have a Wi-Fi card in my computer, so I have to use an Ethernet
Oh,
for
okay.
my
Wow.
main computer. For this laptop, I'm currently on Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
So I am Etherneted in. My internet is much better now, so I could stream if I want to. But the biggest thing is I don't think I'm entertaining enough to try to maintain a live stream, and so that's why I never really tried.
Well,
And so,
my answer is and again, I'm not like we have such a good friend group of people to play with that if you didn't, I'm fine with doing it solo because that's just my personality. But one thing I always say that we kind of underappreciate in our friend group is we have friends that we don't really utilize in the sense of how many people do you know our age can play 5, 6, 7 hours of video games a day, which might be a blessing or a curse depending on how you look at it. But like,
right.
I think we didn't, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about of being a tyrant back in the beginning, trying to get things done. That was the time to strike because none of us had jobs, no one had responsibilities. And what's funny is now that we're older, we all have jobs and responsibilities, but we have more time to play games. So it's funny, like you say that, but you have a group that you can stream with. Uh, the hard part is like if you streamed with me, we're kind of splitting our viewership. So you would have to have the friend group that doesn't stream. But I guarantee
Right.
you, if I was streaming at a certain time and then you streamed later, I mean, most of my group would move to you and blah, blah, blah. So I don't think you have to
Mm,
worry about that. The issue is always going to be algorithms. I don't think it's a matter of entertainment, you
gotcha.
know?
Okay.
And plus, you play a lot of niche games. Like, you would probably do very well in the deck builders. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
it is
me,
true.
the hardest thing for me is being able to maintain a chat as well as play a game. Like, I'm so spacey and ADHD that
Hmm.
it's very difficult, but that's why I stopped care. In my head, my viewers are the most important thing. They're the reason that I'm able to do this. So I don't mind losing in a game if it means that I can talk to the viewers. Because the
Right.
gameplay itself is secondary, in my opinion. I would rather talk and get to know people because I'm just a talker. So I'm definitely not someone that could do like these solo podcasts where I could just talk. I could talk to viewers, but I need to be doing a game or something. I'm not like a Charlie Kirk or a Destiny that could just sit there and talk.
Right.
So yeah, I think you would be fine as a streamer, and you're more than welcome to do it with us. Might have to do this ad. My dream is to get this to the point where we have like a company sort of deal so that we can all just be in one place and get it all together. Not living together if you don't want to do that. Like the YouTube house is kind of obviously like the grand idea, but from a
Hmm.
business perspective, I'm fine with an office space where we can just one person sets up here, one person sets up here in this office, green screens, and then it's set. That would be my dream, but I can do that here, but uh, in the office, technically I could use my office that's down the street from me, but it's again, there's no one. I would need multiple people because the office that I go to has technically five just empty offices for people to set up in. So I was like, man, that would have been nice, but getting everyone
Hmm.
to one place would be again, it's a complete pipe dream. So
Right.
that's the dream. But as I said, you and I and maybe Grant are really the only ones that take the actual YouTube aspect seriously. Like Matt Sprague, I've always said this to him. If he started streaming, he would be huge, I think, because of his personality, how angry he gets. He's a little off the rails, so he'd probably be one of those guys that gets banned pretty quickly. But at least
Yeah.
he's entertaining. But I always say, like, obviously some of the guys rip on me like, oh, you're getting nowhere with YouTube and whatnot, but I've still made money on YouTube, which is more than they've made off video games just playing them, right? Like
Hmm.
if we were just to go by how much money you make playing video games, they don't make anything. And it's like, uh, if you guys just set up a stream or something, maybe you could have at least made some of the money back that you've done buying these games so you can justify the spending, I guess. But again, that to me, how many people, Jason, do you know have a friend group like the group that we have that is constantly together, constantly talking, and constantly playing games together? Like that, I know it's for us. We're a niche of people. Like we're gonna have friendships for the rest of our lives. I don't know why we didn't utilize it earlier. That's
Hmm.
my mindset, I guess. And that's why I was so tyrannical in the beginning because I was like, if we strike now, we might be the next Vanos crew, which again is a pipe dream, but at least we had the ability to do it.
Right.
Yeah, we had the group, and we still do. But again, I'm more interested in just making content and live streaming and all that. Like I'm at the point where I don't care about the content itself anymore. I just want to make something that's entertaining.
Hmm.
So, and I'm definitely liking walkthroughs a lot more. Like I like being able to help people.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
and
So yeah, as to what you were saying previously, the whole from the other groups, everybody else works from the other groups that I engage in. So yeah, basically this is the only group that everybody is playing stuff. Um, and so yeah, that is kind of a rarity, like you were saying.
yeah, I mean, there's every time I'm in there, there's like 12 people. It's like, and everyone's playing different things, but that's why I'm a planner. So like, if I said Saturday at 9, like we can get this done, like that would be perfect. But I know those guys aren't going to do that. But I'm someone where I'll block out a time. Like with you, I always pick a time. We hit that time, we get our job done, and then we just kind of do our thing.
Yep.
And I have no problem with that. And you and I have grinded other games out before that we didn't record. Plus, not to mention all the video. This is how great Jason is, guys. Not to mention all the videos I've made you record with me that I ended up never putting out because it just wasn't interesting anymore. It was past the point. Like a lot of the
Hmm.
escape simulator stuff. Jason and I have done more escape simulator maps than you guys have seen on YouTube, but we've just scrapped them because of the time, or we did like 7 at a time, and then it was like, man, I don't even know how to even edit these. So
Or we were dead in the recording
yeah,
through the middle
yeah,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, we were like, we just had no mental wherewithal anymore. And I
Hmm.
think that I mean, you've definitely been with me through a lot, definitely the thick and thin of this journey the last 10 years, but also like you've definitely gone out of your way. You've gone above and beyond for me, and I appreciate that. And you still do. And I've always loved recording videos with you, and we've done a great job. We've had, I don't know if you ever seen my YouTube comments, but we definitely get some really nice comments, especially on the Steam store too, of like how useful our walkthroughs are. And I love doing the walkthroughs with everything, and I'm trying to branch out more to other things besides Call of Duty. I think people don't realize, or at least our viewers don't realize it, but the reason that we played Call of Duty so much and we did the walkthroughs was because you and I couldn't afford video games to play,
Right.
like to do other games on. So that's why we have so much zombies content. But zombies doesn't even make up an eighth of my videos, which is wild. So it probably makes up a good half of my views on YouTube. But yeah, I don't know. Are you excited for Black Ops 6 at all, or not really?
I never really had the feeling to try to engage with the beta or anything like that,
Neither.
and so I don't know how it is. I don't know really anything about it. I heard from what you said that the zombies is going to be more like the most recent Call of Duty zombies and kind of like Cold War, so like a mixture between them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, from what I saw of the Cold War zombies and the other zombies, I don't remember the game titles and which zombies came out with what game titles, so I can't really
Right.
say
You
exactly
really
what it
haven't
is, and
played
so it
one
kind of
since Black Ops 4, right? You haven't touched the
right. Black
zombies.
Ops 4 is the most modern zombie game that I played for the Call of Duty franchise here, and so yeah, honestly, I don't really know where I stand with that, to be honest with you. Call of Duty, I'm not really interested in the multiplayer. I was actually thinking about it where the last Call of Duty that I played religiously was Call of Duty Ghosts.
It's funny you mentioned that.
And
That was a good
then
one.
the
Very underrated.
after that, I mean, I played a little bit of Modern Warfare 1 2019. Right, Modern Warfare
Yeah.
19 when that came around, we did a
Warzone.
little bit of Warzone, yeah. And that was basically it. So I don't play the campaigns anymore for Call of Duty. I don't play the multiplayer very often. And so, just in general, I'm not really excited for Call of Duty. And especially with the zombies like this, I mean, I could give it a shot, but I don't feel like spending a whole $70 just for a game mode that I don't know if I'll like it.
That's what I was going to say. If it wasn't on the Games Pass, I probably wouldn't even touch it. Because it's on the Games Pass, I'll give it a rip, all 309 gigabytes or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's good enough for me to justify the $70 purchase. But then at the same time, and Matt actually said this, and he's kind of right. If we don't get it, what's the next AAA multiplayer game we're going to play? Because from a playing with friends perspective, it's really all we got. Right? There's really no other multiplayer games that everyone plays or wants to play. Valorant, none of us play. CS:GO, everyone will play it for like a day, and then they're like, okay, we're done with this.
Mhm.
They play a lot of FIFA, and I was like, maybe I'll get into FIFA, but then I'm like, man, I don't have the time to play. They're the kind of guys that um from a playing perspective, they put a crazy amount of hours and into that game and money to get their ultimate teams.
Yeah,
I
they
have
have to.
no interest in that whatsoever.
Mhm.
So that's
It's
why
a
I
lot
don't
of
feel like
grinding or a lot of funneling money to be able to be competitive because you have
yeah,
to make sure your players have like good cohesion or whatever. I
yeah.
haven't played Football Club or FIFA, but I have my sister's husband plays, and so I know a little bit about it from that. So you put a lot of time having to pull random characters hoping that you get people that are good, right?
Yeah,
And so
I always
huge time thing.
I always go into that Discord. I'm like, who's gonna rip a pack? And everyone just starts ripping packs, which is it's fun. I like the gambling aspect of that when it's not my
Mhm.
money.
Right.
So they'll do packs, but they're gonna do it anyway, which is why I'm like, oh, rip a pack, and everyone live streams it. It's fun, and uh, I don't know. I just don't get that itch. I don't have the itch to put money into a game after I've bought it. You
Hmm.
know, and we talked about that before, but that's just not who I am. I don't like wasting. To me, that's a waste of money in the sense of nothing transfers over from the year before. So how many
Hmm.
thousands of dollars have people put into a FIFA that it all goes away the next year. And then 2 years from
Right. So
there, they shut the servers down and you can't even play that one anymore.
yeah. Hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And all the sports games seem to suck in the sense of they're not as good as they used to be. Like Madden does poorly, MLB does poorly, like 2K. And I think that's part of the reason why I've never really gotten into those games because to me it's just a copy and paste.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I just don't have an interest in sports, so I never bothered with the games. I think the
yeah.
closest thing that I did was I tried playing basketball on the GameCube. They had some kind of game called GameCube basketball game, so I played that for a
NBA
little bit,
Street? Did you play Street?
and then I don't remember what it is. I know what the box art looks like, so I would have to take a look at it and see if
I
it's
bet
what
you
it
it was
is.
Street if it was fun.
And then what is it? One of my roommates in college ended up asking me to play something with him. And so on Epic Games like NBA 2K, whatever one was free. And so he had me download that and we played it a little bit. And I had no idea what was going on and I didn't really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
just sports game, not really for me. And so
Yeah.
going back to what the AAA games that everybody can play, I mean, it's really hard trying to find games that everybody would be interested in
Yeah.
because our tastes differ so much. Like
The,
you said earlier, we kind of have the closest tastes compared to everybody else.
yeah. Like my brother and his friends will play Rust. They'll do a lot of Rust, but I don't know those kids that well. And a lot of those are Kenny's friends.
Hmm.
I'm not interested in Rust, and I know like the other half of that Discord doesn't like Rust. But what's interesting is there's so many people in that Discord that half can play Rust, the other half can play a different game, and we still have enough numbers to play full games, right?
Right.
So, like with Siege, I I'm fine. Like playing with five or playing with you and Grant that works perfect for me. Solo's fine too, but like with Rust, you need like a legit group of people to play with, like trustworthy
Yeah, it's rough
people.
doing solo.
Yeah. So same with GTA. Everyone's like, "Oh, let's play some GTA." I'm like, I've been there, done that." I don't know how GTA 6 is going to be any better. I think it's just going to be a new net map.
Uh, that's one of those we'll have to wait and see. Right now, GTA 5 was fine for the time. I enjoyed grinding it out a lot. I liked experiencing a lot of the content, doing the heists, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But just overall, the core gameplay loop kind of fell off, in my opinion. Most of the fun that I had was with Parker, like I name dropped earlier, and we would be in, with the release of heists, they had a thing called the Insurgent. I don't know
Yeah.
if you were there. And so we would have the Insurgent, we would drive around just uh, killing other players in the lobby and then getting them to chase us, and then we would just sit there and wreak havoc on the lobbies, and
I,
that was a lot of fun.
I was one of the people where back when the hacking was like a real big deal, like you get into a lobby and some guy would just give you $1 billion. I was one of those
Mhm.
people. And then probably like 2 years later, after I transferred accounts from 360 to PlayStation to PC, they basically took away all my money. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
like, what am I doing here? When one car is like $2 million, which is like a
Mhm.
third, and then you have to start paying for your house every month or whatever, every week, like you had to pay a fee. It was just eaten.
Yeah.
And like if I was to go in right now, I bet you there's no money. Like it's probably just been eaten up. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you were
it.
talking about it with Grant in the other episode where GTA still has a lot of problems with hackers, cheaters. It's still going on. Apparently, they're doing a new wave of DDoS
I saw
attacks
that.
on
Yeah.
the servers, so it's still a problem.
Well, the real issue was when they started that economy system because then you had the stock market and then people figured out how to kind of abuse the stock market by just throwing like people would hack $1 billion and throw it in and then it would just throw the stock market off completely.
Yeah,
So
I never knew they had a stock market, so I heard you say that earlier, and so I was very confused.
yeah, and
And
they
so
they
that's interesting.
they
Okay.
added it and they had to take it out because too many people were abusing that system.
Hmm.
So things just I don't know if inflation kind of affected the in-game stuff because certain cars would be worth more. I'd have to ask Grant. He played a lot more than I did, but I just remember it was a pretty big deal to the point where they had to take it out.
Right. Gotcha.
So yeah.
So when it comes to what is it, the GTA money, the hacked money. Basically, what I've heard is when you come into a large amount of money, they won't take away the things that you buy with the money, but they will take away your money. So you have to go on like a buying spree as
That's
soon as you get the
exactly,
money.
yeah. So I bought
And
like
so,
at the time, I bought every nice car because I knew it was coming. So
mhm.
it was basically the first year of the nicest cars. Those are the ones I had. Like, I don't know if they're still on the marketplace in GTA 5. I haven't touched GTA. Well, let's see. When was the last time I played GTA? I
They've been
know.
sunsetting a lot of different cars, so you can't buy them anymore. So like a good chunk of the cars that released in the game that were iconic for the game, you can't buy anymore in GTA Online.
The last time I played GTA 5 was March 21st, 2019.
Ooh, that's quite some time ago.
Yeah, geez. But all right, Jason, we just did an hour 40. Went by
Yeah, not bad
fast.
at all.
I know we could keep going, but Mike's gonna want to play the finals pretty soon, and I know
Hmm.
you're our trio partner. So either way, I want to thank you for the years of just tons of fun with you. We've made so many videos and many more. You're definitely considered a lifelong friend, even a brother to everyone. So thank you for doing this. I'm sure we'll do another one. Hopefully, you, me, Grant, maybe Sprague, get the OGs together. See how it goes. Go down a real memory lane, the Siege days.
That would be interesting. I would probably be talked over a lot, or
No,
just wouldn't say
yeah,
anything.
we'll have to see what
Oh
everyone's
man,
doing. But I always like
man,
doing
I'm
these.
not really talked about.
I love having my mom on, of course, but it's always fun to spice it up a little bit, bring someone else on. So, yeah, thank you for doing this. And you don't have anything to really promote, right? You have your YouTube channel, but you don't really post to it.
Yeah, no, I tried doing the YouTube thing and I didn't really like it. And so I put out a couple of videos and then I ended up privating them because I didn't edit them properly either. And so a couple of Matt's words ended up sneaking through and
What are you
stuff
trying
like
to
that.
say, Jason? What about Matt
And
Word?
so, you said he was a little bit problematic, so you know how he can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I've
And
definitely had to
so
edit some things that you said.
And then also back in the day as well, I wasn't really the nicest person either, so I was saying things that I regretted, and so I ended up just
Yeah.
privating the videos, and
I bet you
I don't look at them anymore.
if I went back, there's probably I should private, but when you have so many videos, I don't even care if someone finds one from a long time ago. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not like we're saying anything so crazy, but there was definitely some days when I was in a bad mood. That's about it.
I feel most people would take a look at what is newest games that they're interested in, and then what your first ever video was, and then
Yeah.
everything else I don't think people would really look at.
Well, people forget, like you and I started with Portal 2 custom maps, right?
Hmm.
If you go back, I think my first video is a Portal 2 map with you. There's no
Right.
way that was a good video. I'm scared to look at what that looks like.
Yeah, I remember doing the Portal ones. Those were rough. Some of those maps that people make, the custom ones, yeah,
Yeah, I wonder if they've
man,
gotten any
they were
better.
rough.
We haven't touched those since the day we did them. It's probably been like
Hmm.
eight years since we've actually looked at a
Yeah,
Portal
it's been a
custom
long
map.
time.
So, but either way, again, thank you for doing this. We'll end it there. The only things I have to promote is obviously this podcast, which will come out Monday, Jason, and then Tuesday I'll send it to you. We can go over the edit if you want to just make sure that everything's good that we talked about, and obviously
Yeah,
I'll
sure,
cut some
that's
stuff
fine.
out. And then I probably won't edit it till tomorrow. And then other than that, we're just kind of doing our thing. Social media, promo code Streamlinks, Discord down below, and you will see me and Jason in many more videos and many more live streams. And yeah, so thanks again, Jason. Good job.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for having me.